Space opera Xanadax, across the unknown dimensions of the galaxy. Tom Scioli only makes the most fun comics in the industry today, and I want to show off his latest. This was an absolute blast. You want to stay tuned to take a look at the inside of this. I'm going to put it under the microscope. So stay tuned and watch this video until the end. We're back. My name is Taylor. This is Taylor Talks Comics. Thank you for joining me. Please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below with any of your thoughts throughout the duration of this video. But yes, today we're talking about Space Opera Xanadax, Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy by Tom Scioli. This is an OGN, a graphic novel. This was never serialized anywhere else in single issues or anything like that. Here's the spine. This is put out by Image Comics. And here's the back. This just came out yesterday, so it's brand new to the market. Tom Scioli is one of my favorite cartoonists going today. If you've watched my content, you probably know that. He's done things such as American Barbarian, Godland, Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. He did I Am Stan, the Stan Lee book. He did G.I. Joe versus Transformers, GoBots. I'm trying to think of other ones that I'm missing here. Oh, Fantastic Four Grand Design. He did that as well. Godzilla Monster Piece Theater, that just came out just recently as well from IDW. And all of his comics have one thing in common, and that is that they're fun. They're a blast. His whole method of making comics is seeped into that Jack Kirby tradition of making fun comics, and his art style, which started off early in his career as being this kind of like Jack Kirby pastiche, which I loved. I'm a huge fan of Jack Kirby, so I loved it. But it's now evolved into this thing where he's like totally his own style, totally his own thing, that like when you see a comic book by Tom Scioli, you know instantly it's a Tom Scioli comic. It doesn't look like anybody else. You can pick it out of a lineup without even seeing his name on it. Now this is, like I said, an OGN, and Tom Scioli uses that to its best ability. There's a lot of the way that the method of storytelling throughout this book could not have been done in a single issue format, because there's a lot of pages where there's just like big giant splash pages, double page splashes and things that in a single issue comic book you're going to be like not wasting real estate, but taking up real estate for those things. But when you do it in the OGN format like this, or trade, and this is just a standard trade paperback, by the way, that those things are more, at liberty for you. And the story starts right away. So you get the title page here, and then you get this artwork, which is really pulling you into the story. And you get all this awesome artwork. And it's still the still the signature style of Tom Scioli, where he's no longer inking his own work. Now, I do think that he did all his work digitally. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong on that. He used to work with pencil and paper, but now I think he's working mostly digitally, because this looks reminiscent of a lot of his digital comics that he just posts on Instagram just for fun. A lot of times he does fun comics on Instagram. Now, before I get into that, but look at this badass Xanadax character that we get. He looks like he's half cyborg. He looks like he's ripped right out of a 1980s action flick. He's got these laser claws, like reminiscent of Wolverine, but maybe even more badass. And he just exudes energy. And he posted this image on his social media, Tom Scioli Presents. This is kind of like the title image, where he's like cutting this robot into pieces. And he's just a total badass. We find out that he has a brother, and there's some sort of family dynamic there, maybe a little bit of Thor, Loki situation going on here. But yeah, so he has this signature style where he doesn't ink anything. It's all pencils and then colors. Now, that looks a little bit different now that he's working digitally, which again, I could be wrong, but I think this is all digital. But it still has like the signature Scioli method. And I think he started doing the non-inking kind of style like halfway through the G.I. Joe versus Transformers run, and then it carried on throughout. And I absolutely love it. I think the colors look great. The colors that he uses throughout here too, because this is all done by Scioli. He does all the artwork, all the coloring, all the lettering, all the writing, everything. All done by one hand. In one mind, I should say. And the use of color throughout here is amazing too, because it's done totally for effective story. So rather than because there's going to be some moving, like there's even some flashback periods and stuff like this. There's flashbacks, and then there's also telling the story of this female character with her, not sidekick, but the guy that's kind of running around with her. These two right here, and then there's the character of Xanadax, and you're kind of going back and forth. But the use of color does not make you feel lost at all, and there's no need for title images of like what year it is or anything like that, because the use of color takes you back and forth between the two just fine. Like you have this really stark reds, and then we're going to get into some blues here in a second. Right here. So he's having a flashback, and then we're instantly in these like more bluish colors. And he's pulling it into this flashback period, telling you kind of his origin story a little bit, and then we're back in the reds present day. And it's just such a great use of like storytelling. But anyways, the whole story is ripped right out of like a 1980s film. Like if you're into like those action movies that are just at a breakneck pace, and they have like all these fun character designs, like every character in here looks distinct, and they're like fun looking, and they're you want to know more of their back history. That's like they all look like action figures too. Like they could make a great line of action figures. Even these two characters that are almost not in the story much at all, besides these couple pages, look awesome. But I can see a whole action figure line made of these. A Saturday morning cartoon made of these characters. And it reads almost like a manga as well. I think like Tom Scioli could release this in a tankobon format, and it would read a lot like a manga where there's like so many pages without words. So you're just following the action sequences. And the action sequences are so easy to follow. I think that's one thing that I've noticed throughout here is from Tom Scioli. Like, I never thought he was bad at action sequences or anything like that, but that was a huge strength I noticed throughout reading this as well, is that his action sequences have gone up a level to where they're easy to follow, they're fun, they're creative, and you don't need a lot of dialogue happening throughout those. And here's some of the pages I was talking about earlier too, the splash pages where like you're losing real estate if you're doing this in a single issue comic book, but doing it in this graphic novel format, you can do these giant images with the sequence here going on. Yeah, so the fight scenes are great. But it reads like a manga where it's like you're just seeing fight sequences, not a lot of dialogue, and you're just following the images. So like of all the things that I'd put into the soup of what is inspiring Tom Scioli throughout this, like Jack Kirby, Saturday morning cartoons of the 80s action flicks like Canon Films perhaps, a little bit of Thor and Loki, I guess that's in the Kirby part of it. And video games, perhaps it feels a lot like an action video game, manga. All these things seem like they're in the soup for what Tom Scioli's going for with this story. And I don't want to spoil any of the story beats because I think it's a blast to absolutely read this as you go along. Again, great use of color here too. Like Xanadax is like ripping all these alien spider looking things to shreds, and he has all this ooze and goo all over him now. Just such a great use of color throughout this whole thing. Like, I just had a blast with the story. Now, here's a cool surprise, though, towards the end, which I do hope that there's a sequel. Now, this was listed, this trade paperback was listed as a volume 1 on the solicits and on the, image, if you go, the image website and things. But there's not a volume 1 anywhere on the book itself. But I do hope that there's more of these. I hope that Tom Scioli's not done with this. And in the tradition of manga, I could see Tom Scioli doing 10 volumes of this. Even releasing it in the tankobon format would be cool. But it's such a fun character that I hope he's not done with. Now, as a little surprise at the end, we get the princess story, which if you've been following Tom Scioli for a while, you probably have seen him post this online before, where I think he released it online first, but he's also released this in mini comics at conventions and things. And I've unfortunately not been able to go to a convention that Tom Scioli was at to pick up one of these, because he doesn't sell a lot of things on his web store or anything like that. So if you want to get any of his mini comics, you have to find them in a convention, it seems like. But this was a lot of fun to read. This is the first time I read it because I don't read a lot of things digitally, so I've been always trying to get my hands on a physical copy of this. But it's a nice little surprise here at the end to get the story, his story of Princess, that I've not read before. So he packed that in at the end, which is cool. And then after that, there is some back matter for the Xanadax story with a little piece by piece. He says he started working on it in 2020 and then finished in 2025, and he built it piece by piece. So it seems like it was just like a fun little work that he did on his iPad, just having fun, and then it built into this bigger story. Which, if you follow Tom Scioli on Instagram and things, you can see that he does that a lot. Sometimes he'll just do like goofs on like, I'm gonna do a Golden Age Batman strip, and he just like does the quick little digital thing for free for nothing more than just his own pleasure, and on Instagram he's not trying to sell it or anything. But if you ever tried a Tom Scioli book, make this your first. I think this is my favorite Tom Scioli book I've always talked about was American Barbarian. I think that's like the most fun comic, one of the most fun comics I've ever read, and it's my favorite Scioli, even though I love all of his work. But this might be up there. This is kind of like Tom going back to that recipe of American Barbarian, I feel like, where it's just him just doing this. It feels like he's just building the story, layer after layer, just having fun and having a total blast, like a kid on those living room floor with these action figures and things. But can't recommend this enough. It's one of the most fun comics I've read all year. It just came out from Image. It is in this trade paperback format. Space Opera Xanadax, Across the Unknown Dimensions of the Galaxy by Tom Scioli. Pick this up if you can. Let me know in the comments down below what your favorite Tom Scioli comics are, or any other thoughts you have on this. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and share my videos anywhere you guys talk comics. I'd really appreciate that as well. And I do go live every Wednesday at noon Eastern for a live show where I get to talk to you guys about comics and cover the comic book news and that kind of stuff. So join me over there as well. And everyone, keep talking comics.